Hi, everybody. Welcome to our first Machine Learning and Friends lunch of the semester. Our speaker today is our very own Trapet Bansa. He is a senior PhD student in EASL, and he is actually going to give us a version of his job talk. He's been extremely prolific in his PhD, and he's done work in meta learning, self-supervised learning, multitask learning. I don't know if he's going to list all of those, but this talk is mainly going to focus on meta learning, as I understand. And I want to say one more thing. Oh, yeah. I've seen a version of this talk and it's really good. So I'm very excited for everybody and very grateful to Trapet for giving this talk. If you have questions, please raise your hand and Kalpesh and I will call on you at some point, and Trapet's okay with us asking questions in the middle of the talk. Great. So thank you so much. Take it away, Trapet.
All right. Yeah. Thanks so much, Neha, and thanks so much for inviting me. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining my talk. So I'll talk about some of our work on improving few-shot learning of natural language processing models, and the methods that I'll discuss learn to learn from past experience to enable efficient learning of new tasks. In particular, I'll present some exciting new developments in this area that enable learning from completely unlabeled data. So let's dive in. Now, over the past years, we have seen remarkable and consistent progress in NLP systems, which has empowered many applications, including search, question answering, translation, voice and typing assistants, and more. On many evaluation benchmarks, large models and breakthroughs in unsupervised learning has led to state-of-the-art performance that seems to be beating humans. Here is a newer, improved version of this particular benchmark, where we are seeing some drops in performance for some of the models, but other newer models have quickly come up that still seem to be beating humans. An important aspect of this high performance on a task is the amount of labeled data available to train the model. So here we can see the accuracy of BERT on one of the tasks in this GLUE benchmark as a function of examples. And we can see that models really require a large amount of labeled data to perform reasonably, typically in the thousands. Similar results have been noted by others. The details of these graphs are not super important, and what I want to highlight is that the models don't perform well with limited data. Moreover, these models are also not very robust. So here we can see that changing the domain of fine-tuning also leads to large performance drops. And such results, among many others, indicate that these models are really solving data sets and not tasks. And all of this is really undesirable, as many real-world tasks of interest exhibit a long tail, where there is a large number of classes for which we have very few labeled examples. There are also new emerging labels over time, such as COVID-19, for which we like to make predictions, but don't have a lot of labeled examples. Now, if we take a step back and consider how humans learn and generalize, we find that humans show a remarkable ability to generalize from their past experience to never before seen concepts, even with a single example, vastly less than the amount of supervision typical NLP systems require. For example, given this one instance of an object category, you can easily identify which of these other objects are likely to be from the same category. Similarly, given this one instance of a relationship between two entities, you can easily identify which of these other sentences have the same relationship between the entities in them. To further motivate why this few-shot learning is of high practical utility, let's look at some use cases where few-shot learning is needed. Now, one area where feature learning is very useful is for end users of a cloud-based machine learning service, where we want to provide general purpose models that can be used by many customers for their own tasks who often have limited label data and also limited resources to collect more data. This is also important when we want models to generalize to the long tail of languages. And here we can see the distribution of internet users by language, which exhibits this really long tail. And similarly, when we want to generalize to new domains where there are many of them, for instance, we can see here the distribution of words by topical subdomains in PubMed, also exhibiting this very long tail. Another application where we want to quickly adapt our predictive NLP applications to end users. Now, in all of these applications, collecting large data sets for every task or domain or language or user is challenging, but it is often possible to collect a few labeled instances. So few-shot learning is highly desirable. So now that we're interested in few-shot learning, where models need to generalize to new, previously unseen tasks with very few labeled instances for the task. What do I mean by new tasks? So this could be a completely unseen task, which was not present at all in training of the model. It could be new classes of a task seen at training, or it could be domains of tasks seen at training, new domains of tasks seen at training. And the methods that we will develop are applicable to all of these scenarios, though a major focus will be the unseen task category, which is the most challenging. Now, the important question then is, how do we develop models that show better few-shot generalization to new tasks? Now, one approach that aims at learning general purpose representations is self-supervised learning. And the idea here is to use massive unlabeled data to perform unsupervised learning of a model. This is done by defining a self-supervised task that uses labels that naturally occur with data, for example, words in natural language. An example of such an approach that has been very successful is masked language modeling, where given a piece of text, some words are randomly masked, and the task is then to predict the masked words using the model. Another approach that is often employed to learn general purpose models is multitask learning. Here we assume access to some distribution of tasks with supervised data for learning. The idea here is to share statistical strengths by jointly learning multiple tasks with many shared parameters and a small number of task-specific parameters. This can also be done after self-supervised learning and has been shown to be effective for problems like domain transfer or learning tasks with limited label data. Now, typically, when evaluating models on generalization to new tasks, self-supervised or multitask learning constitutes the pre-training phase, and at test time, we like to use this model to make predictions on a task of interest. This target task will come with some label data, and we'll then perform task-specific fine-tuning on this data to solve that task. For this, we typically need some task-specific parameters like classification layers to make predictions in the output space of the task. The rest of the model parameters are initialized from the training phase, and the classification layers are initialized randomly. These parameters will then be further optimized based on the loss on the training data for the task. And this optimization will introduce another hyperparameter, the learning rate, which is also important to set appropriately for fine-tuning. Now, this two-step process of pre-training followed by supervised fine-tuning can be suboptimal for few-shot problems because there is an apparent train-test mismatch in the way the model is trained and how it is deployed at test time. To see this, note that this process introduces random parameters like classification layers and hyperparameters like learning rates, which are crucial for good performance and can be difficult to estimate robustly from little data. So we are instead interested in developing meta-learning methods which will minimize this train test mismatch for few-shot learning by training the model in the same way that it will be tested. Meta-learning works by leveraging prior experience of learning across many tasks with the goal of rapid adaptation to new tasks with few examples. This will enable learning an initial point for all parameters, including classification layers for new tasks, as well as hyperparameters like learning rates for efficient few-shot learning. Now, before we dive into the main content, let me take a minute to provide a very brief background on meta-learning and discuss some challenges. So in meta-learning, we assume a distribution over tasks for learning. Now, given a training data from the task, the goal of meta-learning is to learn a model that, given the training data and new examples from the task, can make accurate predictions on the new examples from the task. In order to learn the meta-learning model, the loss on the validation examples across tasks serves as the training error that is used to optimize the parameters of the meta-learning model. Now, different choices of the meta-learning model gives rise to different types of meta-learning methods. And these can be broadly categorized into three different types, which is model-based meta-learning, metric-based meta-learning, and optimization-based meta-learning. So this classification is not very strict. So model-based meta-learning is the most black box approach to meta-learning that makes minimal assumptions on the way the model uses the training data to make predictions. An example of such a method is a recurrent neural network that ingests the entire task training data and then makes prediction on any new examples for the task. A recent example of a successful meta-learning method of this category is GPT-3, which uses Transformer as the meta-learning model. Since this makes minimal assumptions on the learning process, it can also be the most inefficient in terms of model size and the amount of data required for learning. In particular, GPT-3 required many billions of parameters and web-scale data for learning. The second approach is metric-based, which is related to the model-based approach, but adds a bit more inductive bias. The idea here is to learn to embed examples in a metric space and make predictions on new examples by comparing them to the training examples. A prominent example is prototypical networks, which computes the centroid embedding of each class in the training set as a class prototype and makes predictions by comparing new examples to each prototype in the metric space. However, one problem with these methods is that the learned metric may not be aligned with the target task of interest, specifically as we move away from the training task distribution. The last is optimization-based meta-learning. The idea here is to embed an optimization process into the meta-learning model. A prominent example is model-agnostic meta-learning, or MAML. And the idea here is to use gradient-based optimization to solve each individual task and learn a shared initialization across tasks that can rapidly adapt to new tasks with few steps of gradient descent. MAML has a nice inductive bias of gradient descent that enables more efficient learning. It is as expressive as black box methods like recurrent neural networks and can be better at extrapolating beyond the training distribution as it uses gradient descent to adapt to a task. So our work is based on the MAML method. So let's look at it a bit more closely. Here, F is a parameterized neural network, like a transformer model that maps sentences to labels. The parameters of this network are optimized on the task training data using multiple steps of gradient descent. So far, this is just like typical supervised fine tuning. Now, the final point of this optimization is then evaluated on new validation examples for the task. The average of the validation loss across tasks then serves as the training error for the meta-learning process and is used to optimize the initial point as well as the learning rate. Here, the task-specific optimization is also called as the inner loop, while the across-task optimization is called as the outer loop. Note that the inner loop directly corresponds to gradient-based fine-tuning that will be used on any new task at test time. And so MAML helps in minimizing train-test mismatch and optimizes the initialization directly for the few-shot fine-tuning process. Now, an important aspect is the distribution over tasks for meta-learning. So where do tasks come from? Now, the prominent approach to generate a task distribution developed for classifying images is to have a large data set with many classes and create tasks by subsampling from subsets of classes. For example, to create two-way tasks, we can sample two classes, cat and dog, along with a few examples for each class. One can sample combinatorially many tasks this way to create a meta-learning task distribution and train models for better generalization to unseen classes with few examples. This approach has also been used in NLP, for example, for the task of relation classification, where tasks are constructed by subsampling relational labels from a pool of labels. Now, while this is useful to learn to generalize to new classes with few examples, it is not always feasible for all tasks of interest in NLP, such as sentiment classification or natural language inference, which don't have a large pool of labels for subsampling. This limits training and evaluation to a very specific type of task, which is also in contrast to multitask learning, which is often performed across many diverse tasks and also helps in generalization with limited examples. So these limitations do not help in learning general purpose models that can generalize to new tasks and often even new domains. This was also seen on this Furel benchmark in NLP, where meta-learning models demonstrated high accuracy, but when the test data was changed to be from a different domain than the training, the accuracy of these meta-learning models dropped by a large margin. We'll instead develop more practical meta-learning methods that are not limited to learning from a fixed task dataset. So this is an outline of the talk. Now, first, in order to enable practical meta-learning methods that can be applied to NLP tasks with any number of classes, we'll develop a supervised meta-learning method called supervised meta-learning method that can enable learning and evaluation across tasks with different number of classes. Then we'll look at moving beyond supervised task distributions and develop a self-supervised approach to meta-learning, which creates millions of self-supervised tasks automatically from unlabeled data, enabling large-scale meta-learning from unlabeled text. We'll then look more closely at this approach to propose modifications that change the task distribution and also propose alternative self-supervised distributions. The methods that we develop should be useful for a wide range of meta-learning applications. However, we'll only consider the few short learning problem for classification tasks. So let's dive into the first part of the talk. So we saw that prior methods on meta-learning for classification are limited to creating tasks from a fixed dataset, which limits centralization to a specific task type. We are instead motivated to develop a practical approach to meta-learning for classification. So we want to be able to leverage diverse supervised tasks across many domains to enable learning general purpose priors and improve generalization with few examples. Now, the tasks can have different number of classes, both during training and evaluation. And we looked at these various methods, which all have some limitations. In particular, model-based methods require a lot of data for good generalization due to being black box. Metric-based methods can easily deal with any number of classes. However, they have fixed representations that lead to poor performance when moving away from the training task distribution. Optimization-based methods can be much more flexible as they use gradient descent to adapt to each task. However, models like MAML typically make the assumption that the number of classes is fixed and known beforehand. So the key idea will be try to get the best of both metric-based and optimization-based methods by embedding the training data to generate a softmax classification head for each task, and then also enable further fine-tuning of the model on more task-specific data. And since we want to make fine-tuning on few-shot data more efficient, we also want to learn some hyperparameters for fine-tuning, like per-layer learning rates, so that fine-tuning on new tasks requires less hyperparameter tuning. Our model is called Leopard, and this is how it works. We start with a batch of training data containing examples and their class labels for the task. This is first split into multiple sets based on the classes in the task. We use the transformer model as the text encoder and use it to encode all sentences in the batch. The encoded representations are then passed through multiple feed-forward layers, and this gives contextualized low-dimensional representations for the examples of each class in the batch. The per class mean of the examples is then split into a weight and bias vector and serves as the softmax classification parameters for the task. This constitutes the parameter generator, which is a deep set model to generate the per class weights and bias for classification. Now, given the generated softmax layer, we can further fine tune the transformer model as well as the generated classification head on more examples for the task in order to optimize for the task loss. This constitutes the inner loop of the meta learning process. Now, given some validation data for the task, we can compute the loss from the fine-tuned model on the validation data and use that to optimize the initial point of the transformer, the projection layers, as well as the parameter generator. Note that this outer loop optimization is carried across multiple tasks in an episode of training. And this constitutes the proposed Leopard model and its adaptation procedure. So we trained this model on the set of glue tasks, which contain a diverse set of tasks, including sentiment classification, natural language inference, question answering, and more. Note that this also allows us to train the learning rate for fine-tuning, which is a crucial hyperparameter. In particular, we train per layer learning rates for fine-tuning the transformer model in the inner loop. We also explored parameter efficient variants of the model, which fix some or all transformer layers during the fine-tuning process. So we consider variants of three popular approaches for generalization to new tasks and few-shot learning as baselines. So we use the BERT model as the underlying text encoder in all methods so that the results are comparable. And the first baseline is like BERT, followed by fine-tuning at test time with randomly initialized classification layers. The second is a multi-task trained BERT model, also trained on a set of glue tasks. And the last is the prototypical model, which is a metric-based approach to meta learning. Now, we follow pre-training followed by fine-tuning approach for evaluation, where we create few short tasks by sampling few examples from the training data for the target task. And we evaluate on multiple values of K, which is the number of examples per class for a task. And consider two settings for few short learning, generalization to new tasks or generalization to new domains of tasks seen in training. I'll only present the first setting in this talk. So we consider a large number of tasks for few-shot evaluation. The tasks considered here are highly diverse, both in terms of their output spaces as well as the domains of the tasks. In total, we considered 17 different tasks for evaluation, and I'm only showing a subset of the tasks here for illustration. So these are the results on few-shot generalization to new tasks. We consider multiple values of K, that is the amount of labeled example for each class. Now, few-shot performance can be sensitive to the few examples used in training. And so we repeat each experiment 10 times with different few-shot training data for each task. This is indicated by the standard deviation for each result. This is, of course, a lot of numbers. So let us instead look at average performance across tasks to understand the overall few-shot generalization ability of these models. So here I have the number of examples per label on the x-axis and the average accuracy across tasks on the y-axis. So first we'll look at self-supervised learning, and the blue curve shows the performance of BERT. Now let's consider methods that utilize supervised tasks. So we first consider multitask learning. The orange line shows the performance of a BERT model trained with multitask learning. In particular, this only fine-tuned the softmax layer for each task, freezing the rest of the model, which has been found to be beneficial when there is not enough labeled data for a task. The green line shows the performance of the same model where the entire model is fine-tuned for each task. While tuning only the softmax layer is better for small k, tuning the entire model is better when there is more data. We see that in general, multitask learning performs better than BERT, especially for small k. Now the red line shows the performance of metric-based meta-learning, prototypical networks. This does not do well on generalization out of distribution and suffers when compared with fine-tuning based methods. Finally, here I have the proposed Leopard model. This performs much better for generalization to new tasks, as the meta-learning approach enables learning a good initialization point, as well as learning key hyperparameters like learning rate. The largest improvements are in the 4-shot setting. So let's also look at some ablations to further understand the better performance of Leopard. First, to see whether the parameter generator itself is useful, we trained a model where we fixed the initialization of the classification weights to 0 for every task during training and fine-tuning. We can see that on all tasks, this leads to worse performance, sometimes by a large margin, indicating the usefulness of the parameter generator. Next, we considered variants of the model where some layers are fixed in the inner loop. This can be useful as we don't have a lot of data for fine-tuning, so fine-tuning less parameters is an interesting alternative to consider. So we consider variants where some of the lower layers are fixed during fine-tuning. In general, we find that not fixing the layers, but instead letting the model trade off these extremes through learned per layer learning rates leads to better performance on average. And these are the per layer learning rates that the model learns for fine-tuning BERT-like models. Interestingly, these are similar but not exactly same as exponentially decreasing learning rates, which is a heuristic that other work has found useful. So to summarize, we introduced Leopard, an optimization-based meta-learning approach, which enables meta-learning across diverse tasks. We show that this leads to better few-shot generalization to new unseen tasks and domains. This now provides a competitive and practical supervised meta-learning method for classification.
Trapit, I had a couple of questions.
Yeah, this is a good point.
So should I ask now or at the end?
Yeah, this is a good point to pause for some questions. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So my first question was about the input space. So how do you unify the input space between tasks which may have different types of inputs? So maybe length of input, or some tasks require a pair of inputs, whereas the others don't. So do you have do you have a representation of do you have a representative task for each input space type in the training process, or?
Yeah, so I guess what we do is we would want to represent each task as some text input, and that's all you need essentially. So the type of tasks we have, they all can be framed as either sentence level tasks or sentence pair level tasks. And so what we do is we just have either a sentence as input or the pair of sentence concatenated with some separator token in between as input. So same as what BERT does.
Okay. And another question I had was whether all the tasks considered were classification, or whether it's possible to use the same method to generate two softmax classifiers for something like reading comprehension, where you need two classifiers to specify the start and end point for the answer.
I see. Interesting. Yeah. So we haven't looked at, phrase those kinds of types where you want to. I think you can think of that as maybe doing some sort of logistic regression on each point as whether it's a start or an end, logistic classification of whether it's each thing is a start or an end. So you can potentially do that. We didn't look at doing that in this work as of yet. Yeah. But this is definitely interesting. It can be, we can try to do that. So another thing was that we did this entity typing thing, which is phrase level classification. And so the way we did that was we pass each phrase into the model as another sentence, so with a separator token, and we can classify whether this phrase is the correct type or not. And so that's also one way you can frame question answering, and that could also be one way to try this.
I see. So something like treat two different tasks, find the start point of the answer and find the end point of the answer, and combine the outputs.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was all. Thanks.
Cool. Yeah. All right. So yeah, so I guess like now that we have a method to learn from and apply to classification tasks with any number of classes, we will move on to self-supervised approaches to meta learning and propose an approach to create meta learning tasks from unlabeled text corpora. So Leopard allows us to meta train across multiple tasks with separate output spaces. This worked better for few-shot learning. However, this required tasks with supervised data for learning, and typically generalization ability will depend on how useful the training tasks are for the downstream tasks. This will require a really large distribution with many related supervised tasks that can be difficult to obtain. Moreover, the supervised tasks can be limited, and this can lead to the model overfitting to the set of training tasks, which can hurt generalization. So we're interested in removing this limitation of meta learning methods to be restricted to some supervised task datasets for training in order to enable really large-scale meta learning and improve generalization to many diverse tasks. So we'll do this by leveraging unlabeled text for meta learning and build on work in self-supervised learning, which has been shown to be highly useful for learning general purpose representations. Our method will automatically propose combinatorially many tasks from unlabeled text, which will enable learning better initialization of model parameters, so better representation learning, enable learning key hyperparameters like learning rates, and avoid meta overfitting during the training process. So I will now discuss how we create classification tasks for meta learning. So we start by first sampling n words from the vocabulary and randomly assigning unique IDs to them. Next, for each of the sampled word, we sample sentences containing that word and mask out the occurrences of that word in the sentences. Note that each sentence only has one word type that is masked. And the label corresponding to the mask is the underlying word that was masked. We instead use the ID assigned to that word as the label for the sentence. Finally, we construct the training and validation split for the task by splitting these sentences into two sets. This defines one task, and we refer to tasks generated this way as subset masked language modeling tasks. Now, this process can be repeated for any n and any k to create n-way k-short tasks for meta learning from unlabeled text. This allows creating as many tasks as the number of subsets of vocabulary words, providing large distribution of tasks for learning. These tasks are related to closed tasks or masked language modeling, which has been shown to learn good representations from unlabeled text. And note that these are sentence level classification tasks, as there is only one word type per sentence that is masked, and sentences are grouped together into a class based on this latent word type. We'll use sentence level representations from the model to make classifications on these tasks, regardless of the position of the individual masks in the sentence. Finally, note that the random assignment of IDs to the masked words ensures that the task cannot be solved without inferring this assignment from the task training data, which helps in avoiding meta overfitting. So let's look at some intuition for why this works. First, note that all downstream classification tasks are in this distribution. Consider classifying book review sentiment as an example. Then for a choice of a prompt and some target words, this task can be considered as an instance of SMLMT occupying some position in an hypothetical task space. So we have all these real classification tasks that we care about, but since we're doing unsupervised learning, we don't have access to these tasks directly, but we do have access to many of these similarly constructed tasks in SMLMT. And this is precisely the setting where meta learning is useful. So by learning on the tasks in SMLMT, we can expect the model to generalize to real classification tasks with few examples. Now, these tasks can also be combined with supervised tasks to introduce further diversity in the task training distribution. We explore a simple approach to do this, where in each episode with some probability lambda, we either sample an SMLMT or a supervised task. So we evaluated this approach in the same setting as before, where we trained a model on 2 million tasks sampled from the Wikipedia corpus. We trained another model where we used the glue tasks as supervised tasks in addition to the self-supervised tasks to create a hybrid model. Note that we use Wikipedia corpus for training the self-supervised tasks so that the results are comparable with BERT, which was also trained on Wikipedia. So now let's look at some results to understand whether the self-supervised approach improves few-shot learning. Now we can again look at the average performance across tasks as for an overall comparison. And this is the same graph we saw some time ago, and it now shows the performance of a proposed self-supervised meta-learning method trained using SMLMT. And we can see that it outperforms BERT with fine-tuning. Now let's consider methods that utilize supervised tasks. So the red and green are two multitask BERT models as before. Interestingly, the unsupervised SMLMT trained model performs better than both BERT as well as multitask trained BERT models. This is now the leopard model that we saw earlier that also utilizes supervised learning. And this performs better on average than self-supervised approaches due to using supervised data. So finally, let's consider the hybrid SMLMT model, which combines supervised tasks with self-supervised tasks for meta-learning. And this approach performs significantly better than all the other methods for all K. Note that using unsupervised tasks in combination with supervised tasks also improves performance over the supervised meta-learning method. If you look at generalization to new domains, we find that the hybrid approach also enables better few-shot domain transfer than strong baselines. Now, one of the reasons the unsupervised tasks improve performance is by avoiding meta overfitting in the meta-learning process. To see this, we can look at the trajectory of the learning rates during the training process. So low or near zero learning rates indicate meta overfitting, as the model does not need the task training data for adaptation. We find that this is indeed the case with supervised meta learning, shown here on the left, where most of the per layer learning rates converge to zero as we continue training. While utilizing SMLMT in addition to the supervised tasks, most of the learning rates converge to large non-zero values, shown on the right, indicating that the model is utilizing the task training data for adaptation. Next, in order to understand how representations differ across these models, we utilized CCA to compute similarity in model representations before and after fine-tuning on a task. And we show the representational similarity for each layer of the model on two tasks. We find that the representations from the meta-learned model are more similar before and after fine-tuning, especially in the lower layers, indicating that the model is learning a better initial point. Next, we also considered the effect of the size of the model on few-shot learning performance. So for this, we considered two additional smaller size models, which are 25% and 40% of the size of the BERT-based model. The orange model are trained with hybrid SMLMT tasks, and the blue are multitask learning models. So we find that while larger models can lead to better generalization than smaller models, the proposed meta-learning approach also improves few-shot performance for the smaller models. And we can see similar results on additional downstream datasets. So this can be particularly useful for scenarios where we need small memory efficient models that also show good adaptation at test time with limited data. So we introduced an approach to use unlabeled data to create tasks for meta-learning. We are now going to look more closely at this approach and propose modifications that will improve this task distribution. So this was the self-supervised method to create meta-learning tasks. Here, this first steps involves sampling of a set of n words from the vocabulary, and these words then serve as latent classes for the task. And previously, we used uniform sampling over the entire vocabulary to create tasks. So we're interested in exploring how the distribution changes as we change our word sampling process, and can we control the difficulty and diversity of tasks through modifications to the sampling process. Now, word distributions in natural language corpora follow this exponential distribution. So if you sample words uniformly, this gives equal probability to all words and puts a much larger weight on sampling rare words compared to more common words. An immediate alternative then would be to sample words proportional to the log frequency of occurrence in the corpora, where the log flattens the heavily skewed nature of this distribution. Another approach could be to find some semantic grouping of words into concepts or topics. Given such a grouping of words into topics, we can look at two alternatives to selecting words for a task. First, we can sample all words from the same concept for a task. This approach allows us to create more difficult tasks, as related words can be more difficult to distinguish, and also allows us to create more diverse tasks by covering a wide range of topics across tasks. The other approach is to sample all words from distinct concepts. However, this can lead to sampling of completely unrelated words, which might be easy to distinguish. So how do we group words into semantically related concepts? There are a number of options. We can use curated databases like WordNet to get some categories, or we can automatically extract them from a corpora using some unsupervised approaches like topic models or clustering word embeddings. So we consider automatic approaches as they have higher recall over vocabulary words present in a corpus. And we use a clustering of word embeddings to find topics. There are many off-the-shelf word embedding methods available with pre-trained embeddings. In particular, we use fast text for embedding words. So given a clustering of words in the corpus, we have two approaches to sample labels: intra-cluster sampling, where all words belong to the same cluster, or inter-cluster sampling, where all words belong to different clusters. Now, all of the methods discussed so far create an offline fixed set of tasks for training. An interesting aspect of being able to synthetically create tasks is that we can potentially control the order in which tasks are presented to the model during training. So if we can control the difficulty of the task during the training of the model, we can provide a natural curriculum for learning from easy to increasingly harder tasks. The word clustering can help create more difficult tasks, as we'll see empirically, but the previous method used an offline creation of the tasks using some pre-trained word embeddings. So one way to get a curriculum over task difficulty is to find the representations of the words from the current state of the model, and then again cluster these representations. So at iteration T, for every word, we can sample some blank filling sentences for the word that will be used in a self-supervised task. We can then embed these sentences using the current parameters of the model, and then take the average representation as the representation of the word. These can then be clustered to create a word representation clustering at step T. Words closer in this representation space would be harder to distinguish by the current model and will lead to more difficult tasks. This can be done repeatedly during training to find a set of hard tasks for the model. We can also mix in easy tasks from either uniform sampling or an offline clustering as we discussed previously. So here, lambda is a mixing ratio of dynamic and static tasks, and gradually annealing lambda from 0 to 1 over training steps will lead to a curriculum from easy to hard tasks. We can also, and then computing the representations for the words and reclustering at every iteration can be very expensive. So we will instead consider clustering after every few iterations and using a slightly older version of the parameters for finding the hard tasks, so that this can be done in parallel without halting the main training process. So now we developed this particular way of creating the unsupervised tasks using a closed style approach. We'll now look at an alternative approach to create a task distribution from unlabeled data, which is inspired by work in computer vision. The idea here is to have a large collection of images and embed them using some unsupervised pre-trained model for embedding images. Then we can cluster these images using any clustering method. And now tasks can be constructed by using the cluster assignment as a set of classes for the images. So we can subsample from the set of clusters to pick subsets of the clusters and sample some instances from them to create tasks. This can be extended to sentence level classification in NLP, since pre-trained sentence embedding models have become increasingly good at generating high quality sentence embeddings. We can embed and cluster sentences to create tasks. Here is an example of a task created this way. Again, we can sample tasks with any number of classes, and combinatorially many tasks can be sampled, assuming a high number of clusters. So now we have all these different task distributions based on different ways of sampling words in SMLMT or based on clustering sentences. So we'll now compare all of these distributions over tasks for meta-learning. Let's first look at these different types of task distributions to understand how they relate to each other. So what we'll do here is we'll train models on a particular type of tasks and then evaluate how well they do on another type of tasks in the same or different domain. On the rows, we'll have models trained on a task distribution, and on the columns will be the target tasks on which they're evaluated. So let's first look at the sentence clustering tasks. Interestingly, this performs much worse on the word-based SMLMT tasks, indicating differences in the two task distributions. In particular, on the performance on the intra-cluster tasks is the worst. Now, this is a uniform word sampling in SMLMT that we developed earlier. This can already do really well on sentence clustering tasks without needing to train on them. And it does well on frequency and intercluster tasks. However, there is a large drop in accuracy on the intra-cluster tasks, which drops even further when the tasks are from a different domain, like Common Crawl. Next, we look at the frequency-based approach. This performs similar to uniform sampling with slight improvements in accuracy. Finally, consider the model trained on the intra-cluster tasks. This performs well throughout, though the performance on the same type of tasks from a different domain still suffers. So all of these results indicate that the intra-cluster tasks are more difficult than the other tasks. Sentence clustering creates easier tasks compared to SMLMT, and training on a more diverse domain is important, as shifting the domain leads to performance drops even when the type of the task is same. Now let's look at some downstream task results on real classification tasks. So on the x-axis are different k-shorts, that is the amount of labeled data per task. And we can see here the performance of uniform sampling that we already saw earlier. Now we can see the performance of sentence clustering, which is worse, as we expected based on the previous analysis. Using the frequency-based sampling already improves performance by making more efficient use of the training data. Then cluster-based word sampling leads to even larger improvements, as it creates more diverse and difficult tasks. Adding curriculum to the task difficulty further helps improve performance. And finally, using data from more diverse domains like common crawls leads to even further gains. We also compare our results on the Furel 2.0 benchmark. And what we did was we evaluated the unsupervised models directly on the test set without any additional training on the training data, which is also available for this benchmark. We see competitive performance with supervised meta-learning models in the one-shot setting, even though the model was not trained for the one-shot setting. And in 5-shot setting, we see better performance than the supervised models. Finally, we can also train the model on the supervised training data that is available for this task, and this leads to the best performance overall. So to summarize, we introduced an approach to use unlabeled data to create tasks for meta-learning. We improved this further using ideas like clustering and curriculum, and saw that this approach is even better than using a naive clustering over sentences to create meta-learning tasks. We saw that this helps ameliorate meta-overfitting, learns centralizable representations, and improves few-shot learning performance on a range of tasks. This now provides a practical method for large-scale meta-learning from unlabeled text, which wasn't previously possible. In the future, it will be interesting to explore uses of such self-supervised task distributions to potentially help provide meta training tasks for many other meta problems in NLP. Before I close, let me talk a bit about where I think we are going. So the prominent approach to machine learning years ago relied on feature extraction, where humans with domain expertise will look at the data and create features to be used by a machine learning model. This has been partly or almost completely replaced by deep neural networks, which automatically discover features useful for a task directly from data. And this has led to large improvements, allowing these models to be widely used for many practical applications. Some of the major milestones in this paradigm came from large-scale supervised learning, where really large human-labeled datasets were used to develop models that were good at solving a narrow task. More recently, self-supervised learning has emerged as a prominent approach to learning general-purpose models from completely unlabeled datasets. This has enabled learning larger and larger models on more and more data. These models serve as good priors or features for many different tasks that can be aligned to a downstream task of interest, typically using some form of fine-tuning on smaller task-specific labeled datasets. While this has been a highly successful approach, there are still many aspects of this pipeline that are still designed by hand, reminiscent of the old feature engineering paradigm. For example, the neural architectures and optimizations methods that work well for our tasks have been carefully designed over many years of engineering and research effort. And then using these models for a particular task introduces more choices in how to align the model for the particular use case, which is left to human ingenuity or hyperparameter search. Meta-learning instead takes a more meta view of learning, allowing for more and more components of this pipeline to be learned directly from data. The work I talked about today recognizes this and used meta-learning to remove some of this mismatch in pre-training and fine-tuning. This allowed us to train models that also learn some hyperparameters like learning rates and are optimized for few-shot fine-tuning so that they can be directly applied to downstream tasks without much additional effort. One of the key takeaways is that having good task distributions in order to enable meta-learning is crucial for its success. While the work I presented focused on text data in English language to generate task distributions, I believe it is important to look at many other sources and modalities for self-supervision, like other languages, knowledge graphs, images, videos, audios, aligned multimodal datasets, interactive games, and more, to enable us to learn better generalizable inductive biases. Much like how humans learn and leverage their past experience to solve new tasks. Eventually, it will be desirable to close this loop and also learn to generate tasks automatically, such that one, they are aligned directly with downstream applications we care about, and two, provide an appropriate curriculum for learning by constantly proposing tasks that the model currently finds difficult. The ability to automatically create useful learning tasks from abundant and rich data sources will unlock the potential of meta-learning and enable applications like architecture search, learning useful model initializations and hyperparameters, learning task-specific learning algorithms or optimizers for goals like better generalization, enabling continual learning, efficient task-specific learning, and more. All right, finally, I want to thank all my collaborators on the work that I've presented today. Thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions now. And please feel free to email me as well if we can't get to your question today, or if you work on related things, I'm always eager to discuss research.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let's unmute and thank our speaker. Thank you, Tarapit, for this excellent talk.